Hey friends, welcome back to another Wellness Wednesday video. Last week I talked to you guys about how I'm going to attempt to move into a weight loss or fat loss phase. Of course, when I say weight loss, I mean fat loss. I'm not wanting to lose lots of water weight or lots of lean tissue, obviously. So when I say weight loss, I mean fat loss, and I always try to choose the approaches that make the most sense to me for fat loss specifically. So I say attempted fat loss phase because I have been in the diet weight loss world for a lot of years now, and I've come to recognize that if my body is not on board with trying to drop excess fat, that I'm wasting my effort. And it'll either be not fruitful or it will actually move me in the wrong direction if my body is just not at the place to be ready to drop weight. So I try really hard to listen to my body, listen to the feedback it gives me. I do think through all of the, different tweaks and approaches that I can do to try to nudge my body towards weight loss. But I'm not one that decides I am going to lose weight anymore. I used to be that way, and I thought that if I just decided to do it and just worked hard, I could make it happen. But I have come to realize that my body has to be on my team if I'm going to lose weight. So I always, make these changes thinking this would be a good tweak to try to cause a little bit of fat loss. And then I'm like, body, is that cool with you? What do you think? And then listen to the feedback and decide if it's working, if we're on the same team, or if I need to try another tweak or just abandon the weight loss idea altogether for a time. All of those things have happened in the past. So I am attempting a weight loss phase, and I explained all the details of what exactly I'm doing in my video from last week. So if you have not seen that one, I recommend checking that one out for all the details. Just real briefly, it involves throwing in some lean days to my life. Some days where I keep my protein about where it normally is, maybe even a little bit higher than normal, and I bump down the fat. I don't call them PSMF days, even though the foods I eat are very much PSMF friendly, but the original PSMF protocol, that's protein sparing modified fast. First of all, I think that's a very confusing name, so I don't even like using it for that reason, just because the name is so confusing. Protein sparing, yet you're eating all the protein. It should be muscle sparing modified fat. Anyways, I think that name is kind of silly, and so I try not to use it so I don't confuse people too much. But then also the original protein sparing modified fast that was developed, I don't know how many years ago, was like 600 to 800 calories in a day, and I never go that low. I'm usually somewhere between 1,000 and 1,400, and so I just don't want to cause the confusion of calling it PSMF and then having all these caveats of why it's not exactly PSMF. That's why I choose to use the term lean day, because that's what it is. And actually, this time I am really focusing on the term fat cycling, and I really like that because it emphasizes fat. When you say I'm eating PSMF, you could be eating, very low fat all the time. And if you guys have watched me for a while, you know that that is not my approach. That is not what I want to do long term. And if anyone were to ask me my advice on what they should do, this is obviously not advice on what anyone should do, but if anyone were to ask me, I would say do not eat PSMF or lean days all of the time. So I love the term fat cycling because it puts the emphasis on the fat, and it doesn't allow for the misunderstanding that you're not eating any fat ever, or you're eating low fat all the time. So for my fat cycling, I do a regular day, which is high fat, also pretty high in protein, always over 100 grams of protein, all the way up to 150, sometimes even a little higher. I do eat to hunger, so it does vary quite a bit. But I have kind of my regular amounts that I usually end up at. So I'll have a regular day that's higher in calories, higher in fat, and still having lots of protein. And then I will sprinkle in the lean days. I never do more than one lean day back to back. If I do a lean day, I always have at least one regular day after it, kind of to recover. I think if I were to do 2 in a row by the end of day 2, or probably by the middle of day 2, I would feel pretty bad, and it's just not something that I'm willing to put my body through. But doing the one lean day every once in a while, like 3 or so times a week, seems to work really well for my body. So I just wanted to give you an update on my first week doing that. So I told you last week that I was starting, and I believe I did start on that Wednesday that I made my Wellness Wednesday explaining it all. I'd have to go back and look exactly. But anyways, I've been doing it for about a week. And first off, lost a couple of pounds, which is fine. Nothing, spectacular at this point. Obviously, a 2-pound fluctuation is very normal, even in my regular life. So not saying anything significant has happened in the weight area yet. I am really curious to see if my body responds with as much weight loss as it did when I first used this approach about 1.5 years ago. I really lost weight very quickly and very steadily. Like for a couple of months, it was just crazy. Every single week I was down more, which with me being at a place where I'm, 10 to 20 pounds away from goal, that is unusual to continue to drop weight every week. And so it was pretty shocking how well it was working. And how fast the weight was dropping off. I shouldn't say how well it was working, because dropping a lot of weight every single week doesn't necessarily mean it's working well. There are a lot of other variables. But anyways, I dropped a lot of weight when I did it the first time very quickly. And I'm curious to see if that happens again, because my diet has changed since then. I also went dairy-free last time, right when I started the lean days. So I'm curious to know if continuing to keep dairy in my diet, if I'm going to have the same kind of results or not. I was concerned that continuing to have the dairy in my diet would make lean days more difficult, because dairy can be an appetite stimulant. It's for, growing babies that need to eat all the time. And so it can stimulate appetite in some people, in some circumstances. So I was interested to see if that would turn out to be the case. I have not found that to be an issue. I have found my hunger to be actually very well controlled. There are a lot of people that, discourage lean days or protein sparing modified fast days and their reasoning for it is you'll just be super hungry. And that makes sense intuitively. You reduce the fat and you're eating less calories, like on average, you should be more hungry. But what I have found is that adding in these lean days has actually down-regulated my hunger. So from when I was just eating regularly a couple of weeks ago, high fat, low carb, I had experimented with carbs a month or 2 months ago, but really over the last 4 weeks, I have been pretty steadily keto. I'll talk about the carbs on another video, but I haven't been adding in as many carbs as I did a couple of months ago. So anyways, I was, my baseline diet, high fat, high-ish protein, over 100 grams of protein, and pretty low, in the keto range on carbs. And my hunger adding in lean days is less than my hunger then. I have experienced something similar when I have done fasting in the past. You guys know I don't really enjoy fasting, but I have done it in the past, and I have experienced a hunger suppressing effect of fasting, at least in a short term. Like if I continue to fast, it does end up building to where my hunger, it wins. But like that short-term effect where I find if I fast in the evening and I go to bed hungry, I'll wake up the next morning with very little hunger, and I'll feel like an emptiness in my stomach, and I'll know that I'm hungry, but I don't have that drive to eat, like I have to eat right now. So I have found with adding in the lean days, I'll have a lean day and have a little bit of hunger, but I think it's more just being bored with the food because it doesn't taste as good. And so I'm like, oh, I'd really love to eat some cheese or, a fatty piece of meat or something like that. So it's not, I wouldn't call it any kind of extreme hunger. There is a little bit of like, my stomach's a little more empty, so I feel the emptiness, but it's more just, I'm bored with this food and I'd really rather eat something else. But then what I've found is on my regular days, which would be the next day after a lean day, is my hunger is extremely diminished. So I'm like, on my lean day, I'm thinking, oh man, I really wish I could have whatever fatty meal. And then when my regular day comes along, I'm just like, I could take it or leave it, which is super weird. And since I really enjoy enjoying food, that's a little bit of a bummer. I am still enjoying my food, but it's just like that lessened desire for food on my regular days, and just more of a, like, I could take it or leave it. So overall, that's a really good thing. And I'm talking about like the negatives of it, but those are very minimal. I would rather have my mind off of food. Like that's more of a positive to me. So no real negatives about it, but I just found that to be interesting, where I'm thinking like, I wish I could have these foods on my lean days. And then when I can have them on my regular days, I'm like, whatever. That's fine. So as far as eating to hunger and my calories, I'll just kind of talk about how my calories have ended up throughout this week. I will say I haven't been counting calories every one of my regular eating days. I have been counting calories on the lean days just to make sure I get enough protein and just to see where my macros are landing. I don't control my calories through counting them. It's not like I get to a certain point and I'm like, oh, I can't eat anymore because I've eaten enough. If I'm still hungry, I will continue to eat, but what my macros have been for the first part of the day will determine what I choose to eat if I'm still hungry, if that makes sense. So the counting the calories and macros, it doesn't limit the amount of food I eat, but it does inform what I choose to eat. So anyways, on my lean days, the first one I actually did my what I eat in a day or what I eat in 2 days video that you guys saw yesterday. I believe it went live. And my lean day was less than 1,000 calories, which is very unusual for me. So you can see my hunger has been lower, which is great. And then, so then I had a regular day after that, and it was a little bit lower on the calories as well. And I mentioned that in the video, that if I saw my calories being that low, those 2 days, if that started to be a pattern, I would intentionally try to add more fat on my high fat days, and I would pretty much just try to add more fat on my high fat days, not really mess with the lean days. Just to make sure that I'm not staying in a super low calorie state for a long time. I do think that alternating between the very low calorie and the higher calorie, even though it averages out to a lower calorie amount, I think it's probably better for my metabolism, helping it stay higher, having some of the days be the higher days. It's kind of like the up day, down day, if you guys remember that from Dr. Johnson. There's been a few people that have talked about that kind of thing, but there's the up day, down day, and there's positive effects on your body from doing the lower calorie one day and the higher calorie the next day that are different than if you just averaged it out and ate the same amount of calories every single day. So anyways, all that being said, I do want to make sure that I don't maintain a very low or a lower calorie amount on average long term. So I would start adding more fat to my high fat days if eating to hunger wasn't, regulating that for me on its own. I do think that eating to hunger has, it has regulated over the week, even though I haven't counted calories on all of my regular days. Just intuitively, being that I've counted calories for many years in my life, I kind of have an idea of how much things are. I'm pretty sure my regular days have been higher in calories than that first regular day. So anyways, then on my second lean day, and I have done just every other day this week, lean day, regular day. On my second lean day of the week, I actually ate something like 1,400 or maybe even 1,500 calories. So that day I felt like I was a little bit more hungry. It was still very high protein. My fat was still pretty low. I forget where it landed, somewhere like 45 grams for the day. So it was still, pretty low. But I just was extra hungry. So I had extra protein pretty much. And then my lean day that I had yesterday, which actually I have been filming another What I Eat in 2 Days video. So you will see this on the next What I Eat in 2 Days video. But the lean day that I had yesterday, I was just over 1,000 calories. So around 1,000, around 1,500, around 1,000. So it does vary a lot, but that's kind of where it's been landing. And then I am counting my calories today on my regular day because I'm doing a video pretty much on my regular days. I count calories if I am filming a video about it for a What I Eat in a Day video. So I am counting today, and I will be interested to see where my calories land today, just to keep an eye on it. Again, not to limit anything, but more to make sure I'm eating enough and then allowing my macros to inform the choices I make throughout the day, if that makes sense. Oh, the battery died on my light. Real quick, I'll also just touch on how I'm feeling beyond hunger. I have been pleasantly surprised with how good I have felt. I have had what seems to be more energy. I feel like I have more brain clarity. And, if I was in a starvation mode, like too low calories, I feel like those things would go in a different direction. But my hypothesis is that I am actually tapping into my stored body fat, which it takes my body a little bit extra of a push to get that to happen. If you guys saw my video where I did my 23-hour fast, I didn't seem to get into a very deep fat burning state that way. My ketones didn't go up, and I, didn't feel great. But when I eat this way with the lean days, I feel like I lose weight, which I, have in the past. So that's my experience, is that I actually lose fat off of my body. And obviously when I lose fat off of my body gets to burn it. And so when you get into that fat burning state, or when I feel like I'm in that fat burning state, I'm actually burning my own body fat rather than just the fat that I'm eating in my diet. Like, I feel really good. So I have been incredibly encouraged with how well this has gone. I was worried that I would have more hunger because of how my diet has changed over the last several months. But so far so good. I'm going to keep it up, and I'll just continue to keep you updated on these Wellness Wednesday videos so you guys can follow along. I know several of you said that you were going to be starting lean days as well. Of course, I am not recommending it to anyone. I am just sharing my experience. But if it is something that you have added to your lifestyle, I would love to hear how it's going for you. And if you've done any other different kinds of tweaks, going higher fat or whatever, I would love to hear that as well down in the comments. Let's chat there. And I think I'm just going to leave it here. I hope you guys are all doing great, and I will talk to you again in the next video.